Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. It's Nicole here, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you already subscribed to my channel, what's up? Good to see you again. Thanks for joining me for another video. You can follow me on Instagram at Nicole the Scientist. If you are new to my channel, I did have a baby girl, Kerrigan Green. I had her almost 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to share with you in this video my labor and delivery story. I did do a labor and delivery vlog, but obviously every detail couldn't be included in the vlog, so I wanted to do a separate video explaining and outlining everything that took place during my whole labor and delivery experience. I am a first-time mom, so I really wanted to share with you all what happened, because the things that I experienced during my labor and delivery process, I was not prepared for. So I just wanted to get my story out and share with you all. I know for myself, before I gave birth, I watched a ton of YouTube videos and a ton of YouTube videos about labor and delivery, a lot of vlogs, and a lot of stories. So I just wanted to share my story because I find that everybody's story is pretty much different. So if you're interested in hearing about my labor and delivery experience, then make sure you stick around for this video. I went into the hospital around midnight, around Thursday night, which in turn would be Friday morning at about 12 a.m. I was having contractions. They were about 8 minutes apart, and I was afraid that they would progress and speed up quickly. And considering that I'm like 45 minutes from the hospital, my husband and I and my mom decided to go ahead and drive to the hospital. So by the time I got to the hospital, my contractions were about 6 minutes apart. So the doctors came in and they checked me to see if I was dilated, and I was only dilated 1 centimeter, and I was 80% effaced. So they told me since I wasn't dilated, they probably would send me home. However, throughout the whole duration of my pregnancy, I've historically had really, really good blood pressure readings every time I got my blood pressure read. But for some reason, I think due to the pain from the contractions, my blood pressure was really high. So they were concerned about that. So they wanted me to stay for a little bit, and they wanted to monitor my blood pressure. And every time they checked my blood pressure, it stayed high. So due to that, they decided to go ahead and keep me and try and proceed to induce my labor because my blood pressure was so high. Even though I was only 1 centimeter dilated, they wanted me to stay. So I got admitted to the hospital. I didn't get into actual labor and delivery area until about 6 hours later. So I was going through contractions for several hours in pain with no epidural or no pain medicine. So finally, my doctor came in to see me. She told me that they wanted to start me on Pitocin, which is supposed to make your contractions come more strong and to really help you open up down there and help you dilate. So I decided to go ahead and take the Pitocin. In conjunction with that, I was on regular IV fluids, and also I was on penicillin IV because I was positive for group B strep bacteria. So I had the Pitocin being pumped into me, I had the regular IV pumped into me, and then I also had the penicillin being pumped into me. So that's 3 different IVs that I had pumped into me. So I started on a dose of the Pitocin. It gradually became increased by the nurse. She continued to increase it. However, by the time my doctor came in, she said that I was only about 2 centimeters dilated. So I started to dilate, but I was dilating really, really slow. However, the contractions were extremely painful. My doctor really wanted me to get the epidural at about 4 centimeters. However, the pain was really bad, so I went ahead and got the epidural when I was about 3 centimeters dilated. So once I got the epidural, I was a lot more comfortable. However, it just felt really, really weird because I couldn't feel the bottom half of my body. Also, I didn't really eat a large meal before I went into the hospital, so I was extremely hungry. So I decided to order some liquid food that was appropriate for labor and delivery. You can have like a clear diet. So I ordered like some chicken broth and some jello just to have something on my stomach because I was really, really, really sick from all of the medicines and all of the fluids that were being pumped into me. So I continued to have contractions. I continued to get the epidural. I kept pressing the button to um, make more epidural come into my body. So they gave me this device that was connected to the epidural. And I would press that if I felt like the epidural was wearing off. So I was constantly pressing that, constantly pumping this epidural medicine throughout my body so that I wouldn't feel these painful contractions. So hours went past, about 8 to 10 hours later went past. Already seen two of my OBGYNs from my OBGYN practice. They come in, I'm like 5 centimeters dilated. So I'm like, okay, cool, like this is good, I'm making progress. I'm dilating very slow, however, at least, I'm progressing and maybe I'll get to push my baby out pretty soon. Well, about 24 hours later, still getting several epidurals, laying in the hospital, extremely sick. I threw up 4 times while laboring because I was extremely, extremely sick from the Pitocin. I kept calling the doctor, letting them know like I wasn't feeling well at all. And the doctor asked me, at one point she asked me how I felt, and I told her, I said, I feel like if I were to go to sleep, I wouldn't wake up. Like I felt like I was about to die because it was just so much medicine being pumped into my body. I just felt really sick. So I kept trying to sleep and just sleep and sleep because the more I stayed awake, the worse I felt. I just felt really sick. I didn't feel like myself, and I just didn't really expect to experience that during labor and delivery. I just thought that I would feel like, my normal self, and with the epidural, I would just feel numb from the waist down. Well, I was totally wrong because I felt extremely sick and I constantly had to throw up. I was very, very nauseous from the Pitocin and the medicine. Every time they increased the Pitocin to make my contractions come stronger, I got really, really sick. So it's been almost a day and a half, and my doctor comes in around 11 a.m. on Saturday, and she says, you're only 8 centimeters. She says, you haven't progressed the last 5 or 6 hours. She said, we're going to have to go ahead and do a C-section. Now, mind you, prior to that, I did get my water broken when they started the Pitocin. So, considering my water was manually broken and I was starting the Pitocin, I really should have progressed a lot faster than I was. So, they were getting concerned that I would never dilate to 10 centimeters and be able to push the baby out. So, finally, Saturday morning, after spending about a day and a half pumped with drugs, laid in the hospital, my doctor decided to schedule me a CESAREAN right away. So within like 30 minutes, I started getting prepped for my C-section. They took me away. They took me to the back. So I also had the epidural still going in my body. And then I had some other fluid pumped into me from the anesthetist or the anesthesiologist to make me even more numb so that I wouldn't feel anything during the C-section. However, I was still woke. So this was a really scary experience for me. Once the anesthesia medicine got into my body, I started shaking uncontrollably. Like I felt like I was having a seizure. I don't know if my body was having some kind of withdrawals from the medicine, but I was shaking extremely, extremely bad during the surgery, and my husband was next to me and the anesthesiologist was behind me, and I kept asking him, why am I shaking so much? Why am I shaking? He said, oh, it's normal. The hormones are leaving your body. And I'm just thinking like, I never would have thought like I would feel like this or experience something like this. The worst part about this experience was that once they took the baby out, I heard her cry right away. They were talking in the background saying that she was okay. Obviously, I wasn't able to do the skin to skin that I planned on doing with her because I had a C-section. They needed to take her right away, but they did give her to my husband right away. But as soon as they took her out, they began to sew me up. Now, when they started to sew me up, I started to be able to feel them actually sewing my stomach back up. And I told the anesthesiologist that was behind me, I said, hey, I said, I can feel it. And he said, oh, it's normal to feel pressure. You're going to feel some pressure. And I said, no, I don't feel pressure. I'm like, I can feel them like sewing me up. The medicine's wearing off. And then he's like, oh, no, it's pressure. So they just was like digging and digging, I guess, the needle into my stomach, and I was like feeling it, and I just was like, I can feel it, I can feel it. So I started yelling, and then they stopped, and then the anesthesiologist gave me more medicine through my back, so I felt like all of the medicine going through my back. And then we waited for about 5 minutes, and then I was numb again, and they proceeded to sew me up. But that was the worst experience. And I started to feel pressure down there, but once I got the next dose of the anesthesia, I wasn't able to feel them sewing me up, but I can feel them working down there. Obviously, I was feeling a lot of pressure, and I was just shaking really, really, really bad. And I just kept asking my husband, I said, how much longer, how much longer? And he kept saying, oh, 20 minutes, oh, 30 minutes. And I'm like, you said that last time. So basically, it took a long time. Like, it took a lot longer than what they told me it would take for the cesarean. They said, oh, you'll be out in about an hour. And I'm like, okay, this is more like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And this is like really long. I'm shaking. I'm not feeling well. So finally, they got done with sewing me up and taking me out of the operation room and wheeling me back to the labor and delivery room. And I was so out of it. I was so drugged, I couldn't even see my baby. My vision was so blurry, I couldn't even see how she looked. I just remember my mom and my husband being in the room. Sorry, but so I do just remember my husband and my mom being in the room with the baby once they ruled me out of the operation room back into the labor and delivery room. And my vision was so blurry, I couldn't even really see her face. I couldn't see how she looked or anything. I was so weak, and I was just shaking profusely to where I thought I was getting ready to like go into shock or have a seizure or something. I just think the medicine was just a little bit too strong for me. I think I had just too many fluids being pumped into my body for almost 2 days straight, to where I was shaking, I was weak, I couldn't even hold my baby. It wasn't until about a few hours after the C-section that I was able to calm down and stop shaking and get my vision back and be able to actually function and eat. And once I ate, I was able to gain some strength and be able to hold my baby and see her for the first time. But I just really want to share my labor and delivery story because, women have babies every day, and you hear about, people say, oh, I just got a C-section, oh, I had vaginal birth, but you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, because birthing a child can really lead to like a lot of health risks, and it's definitely more dangerous when you are having a surgery, when you're having a C-section. And I just remember the whole time that I was laboring and I was feeling so bad, I just kept asking them, like, how's the baby, and every time they said, oh, she's doing great, she looks great, her vitals look great. And I'm just grateful that my baby was so strong, even though I was feeling so awful the whole entire time, that she was still being strong and she was doing good. So she was definitely worth all of the stress that my body went through. But I hope you enjoyed this labor and delivery vlog. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Give the video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll definitely get back to you. And thank you for watching. Bye.